I did not see that one. Are you Dale? Hi, Dale. Thanks for being here. We're gonna lead off with you. I'm just waiting for Mr. White. All right. All right, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we will get the St. Charles County Council meeting for November 29th underway. We will start tonight with our invocation, which is led by Dale Cochran from Free Will Baptist Church. Thank you very much for being here. And our Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilman Dave Hammond. Would you please stand and remove your caps? It's all yours, sir.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening on behalf of the St. Charles County Council. Lord, we pray that you would bless this time that we have this evening, that you would help get things done that needs to be done. And Lord, we thank you for that. We ask, Lord God, that you bless every one of our council members, men and women, and Lord, that you would use them in a special way. I pray, Heavenly Father, that you just watch over them, keep them safe, help them have a good holiday season. And Lord, we thank you for everything you're doing and everything you're about to do. Lord, we give you the praise, the honor, and the glory in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Please call the roll. Thank you, Dale.
Councilman Cronin.
Here.
Councilman Brazel.
Here.
Councilman Hammond.
Here.
Councilman Elam.
Here.
Councilman Hollander. Councilwoman Schneider.
Here.
Councilman White.
Here.
Before we get started tonight, I know there's a lot of strong feelings about things that we're probably going to discuss. And over the past few weeks, we seem to be going down a path that I would ask us to not go down tonight. This is a county government meeting, so please treat it with the decorum that it's due. So if you agree with somebody, that's great. If you disagree with somebody, that's great. Please hold your opinions and don't shout out from the audience. Don't jeer somebody. Don't cheer somebody. It's not a political rally. It's not a ball game. It's a government meeting. So please treat it with the decorum that we're asking for. And I'm just going to make that request tonight and see if we can get through this in that particular way. So with that, Councilwoman Schneider.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to advance the oral report from the county executive to be the next item on the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The agenda is amended. Mr. County Executive.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to go ahead and make my comments now, and it might inform some that want to speak later if they know some of the things that have been and will be going on. First of all, I got a lot of emails today about people on the question of the Director of Public Health and qualifications, et cetera. I know you'll have a discussion about that. I just want to make sure everybody understands that we're not asking you to appoint her as the Director of Public Health. We are asking you to allow her to carry over as the acting director until we can hire someone. There's questions about doctorates and things like that. If you don't know, the last 5 directors we have not had a doctorate degree. We have had very few people apply in the past with a doctor's degree, but we do have a couple that we're looking at now that apply just in the last, week or two, Joanne? But that has not been a requirement, okay? It is a requirement in the charter of the city of St. Louis. So if you think that's something that should be a requirement, you can discuss amending the charter, but it's not a requirement right now. The second thing, and really the more important thing, is with regard to the decision by the judge in Cole County last Wednesday, in which actually some of the things, remember the very first meeting that we had, and I talked about some problems, and I suggested, we need to get the legislature to change some things. Well, among the things we suggested they change is one of the things that the judge declared to be unconstitutional. So we basically have, as a political subdivision, have followed the rules the legislature gave us. Now, a judge has said those rules are not constitution. They violate delegation of power and separation of power and several other issues. Now, that decision does not actually go into effect for 30 days after he filed it. But on Wednesday, when we saw the decision, we saw the very clear message about quarantines. We have told, on Wednesday, we told our Department of Health to stand down when it comes to quarantines. They have continued to do that, and we're going to instruct them to continue to stand down until we get better clarification about exactly what can and can't be done, till we find out whether there's going to be appeal. But in the meantime, we will go ahead and stand down on that and wait for a clarification from either the Department of Health and Human Services or Senior Services or from the court in Cole County. So I just want to say those things going in, and it might answer some of the questions that people otherwise would get up and ask you all at the mic, and that's all I have.
Is it, am I correct in my understanding that unlike what we are doing here, telling our health department to stand down, that in some other cities or counties, they're continuing with those orders because the judge's opinion has not been made a final
That's what I've
decision?
been told.
Okay.
And I would anticipate that that's
Okay.
what's being done. Other places, I'm sure, will adopt the position we adopted. And I would love to tell you what I think or what our lawyers think that this is all about. But I would tell you that it seems to be changing constantly.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want anybody to go away tonight thinking it was one way and then find out later, tomorrow, it's not. So we've got lawyers in different jurisdictions that don't agree exactly what's going to come next. But that's why I think it's wise to go ahead, just stand down. And the other thing is I talked to Bernie DeBray, Dr. DeBray this morning, and the superintendents were going to meet this afternoon and talk about where we are on all this. I mean, there's no doubt about it, our role is going to be severely diminished, if not entirely eliminated. But the schools still have a statute that says if you're infected or if you are likely to infect someone else, you're not supposed to be in school. So we'll have to see what the school districts are going to do moving forward.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move back to a regularly scheduled agenda. That brings us up to a public hearing on the Calhoun Ferry Company, the Grafton Ferry. Any comments to be made during this public hearing?
Arne Dienoff.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of council. My name is Arne C Adams, County Public Advocate. The county ferry terminal and barge license is a subject that we need to gain and gather more intergovernmental relations. I'm asking this council to waive the fee once again. There's really no purpose of taking money from a public entity. It's a family who runs the current system. There's a proposal out there to make it public, but there's a family that's really struggling to keep people moving between St. Charles County, Calhoun County, and Jersey counties over in Illinois. There is a proposal, or the ferry for Grafton and the Golden Eagle. There's a proposal by the mayor of Grafton to make a free ferry system. And he wants to, there's a study currently underway. I asked that our county Department of Transportation and county executive get involved in this process to make this ferry system free for all. There are opportunities to the federal government through the Department of Transportation and the Illinois Department of Transportation I would ask this council to pass a resolution in support of a free ferry system overcharging the public. The ferry system, as I said, serves St. Charles County residents who have loved ones in Jersey County and Calhoun counties. And once again, I would ask this council to waive the fee as you do with other governmental entities or other public uses. There's really no rhyme or reason why we keep charging ferry fees. It really is a benefit to our county residents and to the region as a whole. So we need to get back in the business of intergovernmental relations and doing what's best for our citizens. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Dinoff. With that, that brings us up.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. If there are other speakers, but I wanted to make a comment because I did receive a communication from one of my constituents who has some property near there. I suggested that he could come in and speak publicly, but for whatever reason, he chose not to. But since he sent me an email, if it would be permissible, I'd like to raise a couple of points that
Sure.
he raised in that communication to me, without mentioning his name, because he asked to remain anonymous, I guess. What he says is that he believes that the Sherwood and Grafton ferry roads are being blocked by the lines of cars waiting to get on the ferry. He says it's local landowners and residents can't safely pass around lines of tourists waiting the ferry boat, that the traffic blockage is a serious hazard to first responders who may need to access the roadways. He says that local residents have had to post their own signage to attempt to mitigate the traffic problems caused by ferry traffic and by people using the ferries from trespassing on the private property. He also says the ferry boat parking lot is often in a state of unsightly and muddy, pockmarked disrepair, and has an unsafe egress for traffic exiting the parking lot onto the Sherwood Harbor Road. He says the signage is inadequate, and because there are no restroom facilities and the tourists or patrons waiting along ferry lines are often observed urinating and defecating in the nearby weeds and woods. Apparently, he talked to someone in the county, and they said that they hadn't received any complaints, and this person said that there have complaints been made. So I would request that county staff maybe would go down there and check, I don't know how often they do that, and see whether or not there are any of these concerns are valid. My constituent also sent me photographs of signs that have been placed, I assume, by private landowners. One of them says, "Back up, this is not fairyland," and the other one, which is a green diamond-shaped sign, says, "Private, go slow." So I wanted to raise those concerns.
Very well. Any other speakers?
No other speakers.
Okay. Any other comments from council? With that, we will close this public hearing on the Calhoun Ferry Company, Grafton, and we'll move on to public comments. So public comments, as most of you know, who are regular customers, they are 3 minutes. You get to speak on any subject that you wish. We have a timer up here so you can see where you are in the timer. Once a subject has been raised, we do 3 speakers for and against on each subject. And when we get to 0, I will thank you for speaking and move on to the next speaker. So with that, our first speaker is
Arne Dinoff.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of council. My name is Arne C Adams, County Public Advocate, and running for County Executive. The first issue I'd like to address is Americans with Disabilities Act. As you can see, I've broken my arm, so I'm temporarily disabled, and trying to get into this building was a real hassle for me. I would like to see some updates in this upcoming budget in 2022, and some upgrades, compliance with the ADA. It's about time that we put people's disabilities over the costs. We need automatic door openers at the front steps into the council chambers, in my opinion, because it's very difficult to move those heavy doors. So I would ask that we meet the compliance of Americans with Disabilities in this up-and-coming budget. Access of meetings by way of WebEx and by telephone for public testimony. The County Council, Planning and Zoning Commission, Merit Commission, Medical Examiners Commission, and other boards and commissions. You took millions upon millions of dollars in COVID funds, millions upon millions of dollars in CARE Act funds, tens of millions, but yet the access has gone away and we have the infrastructure. And really doesn't make sense how you have your hand out, but you really don't want to give access and transparency to our meetings. A lot of elected officials up on the dais speak about documents, emails, and transparency. But why aren't these documents ever put out on the county website? What is the big secret? There is favoritism of political employees, certain police commanders and finance employees. An officer charged with felonies in Montgomery County pled guilty to a misdemeanor and a plea deal, was promoted from officer to captain in less than a year and doubled his pay, his public salary. It was unfair and wrong. And Mr. Brazel, I would ask that you follow the money and follow who this administration pays favoritism to. What about our corrections officers? As we all read in the paper and saw in the news media, St. Louis County has given a $3 an hour pay raise to their employees. We talk about law enforcement. I believe correction officers are law enforcement, and we tend to forget about them every single year. Why was the county prosecutor not brought in on the discussion and the needs of the body camera system? Doesn't make any sense to me. The county gets $19,500 salary, $750 a check per meeting, pension, full medical benefits. Where is the committee structure and where is the transparency? On the consent agenda, $564,000 to a foreign company, Nokia, rather than a free tower on the Wentzville Tower system on the Parkway makes no sense. Public health, TEK systems, $180,000. Someone needs to explain to the taxpayers what we're getting for our money. And I appreciate the Keebans giving 11.13 acres in a donation to our county. It's very well needed, and I appreciate their generous donation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Dino.
Jen Olson.
I have a picture for the thing. Can you restart my time?
While you were prepping?
No, I was putting that up there to make sure. Okay. I would like to tell you what this is all about. Money and power. We don't need to wait for an appeal or clarification on the ruling. Most of us knew a long time ago that the requirements, mitigation, and guidance are unconstitutional. We could have ended this a long time ago. We've been begging for over a year. The public in St. Charles County does not support what you've done and what you continue to do in regards to COVID. The public is supposed to be your guide. Why does it feel like you all think it's the other way around? Do you not take us seriously because you think we're a bunch of country bumpkins who will just allow you to keep walking all over us for as long as you please? Do you think we're too ignorant and simple, or maybe just too busy trying to keep our heads above water financially to pay attention to what you're doing? We are paying attention. We've been showing up week after week, asking nicely, begging, pleading, asking firmly, demanding, and now we're here. If you think this is a standoff, you've forgotten where you fall in the power structure. We, the people of St. Charles County, we put you in these seats. We are everywhere. In your businesses, government, neighbors, your family members. We're listening, we're paying attention, and we're gathering information. We are digging into the corruption in this county, and thanks to the tyranny that you've all allowed, a lot of us have lost a significant portion of all of the things we've always been afraid of losing. Look at us. Here we are, spending Monday night with you folks. We could be enjoying our lives with our families, or watching football, or basket weaving. This is important to us. Trying to get through to you. Trying to make you understand that we are done. We are not going away or backing down. My final thought for the evening, please stop. Stop playing the game. Stop playing politics. Stop allowing the almighty COVID dollar to rule and ruin our lives, our schools, our community, and our country. Be brave and respect our authority and stand up for the will of the people. You know what we hired and entrusted you to do. I implore this council to pass a resolution outlawing all COVID testing, masking, quarantining, and jab requirements in this county. The lives and livelihoods of your fellow citizens have been destroyed by this tyranny, and you are all complicit so long as you allow it to continue. This ends one way or another. Will you walk away with pride knowing you upheld the Constitution, or will you walk away in shame? What side of history will your legacy fall?
Paul Gainey.
Hi, I'm Paul Gainey with Gainey Engineering. Just want to make a few points about the Hackman Road project, about the construction of a single-family home on a lot that's smaller than 1 acre. This project is thought to be about the size of the lot and the house, but it's really about the septic system. You're not allowing them to build a house on this property because of a septic system, because the county has stated if we can connect to the sewer, a house can be built. Or if you can get more property, a house can be built. So it's not about it's not about the septic system. So in the state and all the surrounding counties, there is no minimum lot requirement if the lot was platted prior to 1996. So they will allow you to build a house, modify a house, repair a septic system on any size lot in the rest of the state, even St. Louis County, Jefferson County, all the surrounding counties, even with variances, as long as it was platted prior to 1996, which is the current state rule, as this lot was. So I feel there's no reason they shouldn't allow them to construct a home and a septic system on this lot, considering the rest of the state allows it. The state will even grant variances from wells, lakes, streams, public water sources to allow that in other instances. We're not asking for anything like that on this lot. We've designed a state-of-the-art septic system that will produce the cleanest effluent possible, and I see no other reason why you shouldn't allow them to build a home there. Thank you.
Joe Moran.
My name's Joe Moran. I spoke plenty at the last meeting, so I'll take far less than 3 minutes. One of my big points, I guess, is I'm a constituent in District 2 where I live on Ravens Point, where a lot of my property exists in Lake St. Louis, and where my in-laws' property is on Hackman Road. And the last meeting, a lot was talked about, you know, the rights of the people from the board and things like that. And I think landowner rights should be considered. I think it's an important point to this meeting. There was a lot of information in from the building department that was plain not accurate, and we submitted information to show how it wasn't accurate. There was a house there. The building department said there was a failed septic system, although I have no reason to think that it was failed, but we removed it to put all new stuff in. I did my due diligence. I called. I was issued permits on 2 occasions to build a house here. I tore the house down that was there in, I think we decided it was 2011. We just want to put a house back there, just like there was before. Like Paul Gainey mentioned, this happens all throughout the state. It happens in St. Louis County, and that's all I can say about the matter. We're willing to go do whatever, you know, sign whatever paperwork that says that we have to, that says that this is the end of the matter. We just want to build our house. Thank you.
Nora Brown.
Thank you. I'm Norv Brown. I'm here for Jennifer Davies, who is the attorney in this case. Jennifer had an emergency. She can't make it. She only wanted me to make a couple of points really quickly. One, we do want to emphasize that the building permit was issued twice, and it wasn't due to anything that Mr. Moran did or did not do that caused it to be withheld or pulled back. Second of all, which is also very, very important, is there was a concern about the well, a concern about certain locations of things. And when we were at the last meeting, it was very clear that the maps were too small. I hope that you received them. We did send a full-size map of both the septic plan and of the survey plat, so that you could really see what the dimensions were and what was going on. And if everyone received them, that's great. And finally, there was a concern about drainage into a ditch. While we would not want to do it, Mr. Moran is willing to put in a culvert that would eliminate the need for the ditch and absolutely eliminate any drainage into any ditch. So that's all I had to say. Thanks.
And that's final speaker.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. So with that, that'll wrap up public comment. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Any items to be removed from the consent agenda? Yes, Mr. Cronin.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to remove the Parks and Recreation land donation off the consent agenda. for discussion.
Parks and Recreation. Got that?
I like-
Do I have a
A second, yeah.
have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Brazel.
I'd like to remove several items, the Public Health Director and also the roof for facilities.
Second.
Second.
Hold it, the roof for facilities.
It's under facilities, I saw it somewhere.
Oh, facilities management.
Yeah.
Gotcha, my bad. All right, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, anything else to be removed? So I have facilities management, public health, and parks and rec, correct? Do I have a motion to,
Motion to approve the remaining items.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so we will start off with Mr. Cronin's first.
Well, he may get mad at me for this, but Mr. Keevan's in the audience out there, and he's sitting right over there with a grin on his face there. And I just want to point him out and thank him for the generous donation that he made to county park system. This piece of ground is going to be real critical. It's right next to an existing O'Fallon Park. It's going to help out with getting the Darden Greenway finished up, and it was an exceptional donation by him. But I also want to point out that this is a family tradition in the Keevan family, because years back, when there wasn't a fire station on the south side of O'Fallon, along the other side of Highway K, his father donated a piece of ground for a fire station that sits there to the day. So Mark, thank you. You're a good guy, and proud to call you a friend, and what you did for the citizens of this county justifies me calling you out in a crowd, sir. There you go.
So with that, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
There's motion to approve and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you, Mr. Keevan. We appreciate it.
We can do the roof one first, it'd be quick.
Let's go to the roof one
The
next.
roof one is, we met with the facilities team, John and Christine, and everything's good. I just had to pull it off because I have to abstain from it, because in the roofing industry, I work with all these different contractors.
Very well. So, request for a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Abstain.
Thank you. So that one is approved. So now we're up to Department of Health. Mr. Brazel.
Yes, I did meet with Ms. Evers, and I kind of wish I'd known what Steve had just said earlier, I mean, because that kind of makes a difference, but had a lot more to say. So from what I understand, Mr. Stroman, this is a temporary position, is that, how long is temporary, do we know?
Well, originally you approved for 6 months, and we had hoped to have someone to bring to you as the new director. We've interviewed 2 people.
We've interviewed a lot more than 2, but
Yeah.
only 2 got through to you.
Only 2 got, oh, you interviewed more. I got to interview 2. And at this point, we're still looking for the right person. Why don't you tell them about some of the people that have,
You had
65
Can you grab that
applications.
microphone real quick?
65 applications and 4 doctors.
Yes, although you're a doctor if you got an MD somewhere.
Yes.
And some of these are not people who are practicing in the United States. And they may be doing research elsewhere
and are wanting to stay. We have had some applications from nurses recently, one with a doctorate and some relevant experience that we're bringing in for an interview, and some other folks that have significant backgrounds. So, I mean, it's a continuing process. There was a period of months there, though, where we had virtually no applications. So it seems to be, we continue to advertise, and, it needs to be somebody with the qualifications to be the permanent director.
And I think it's important to note that it was on the November ballot that we had last year. This is one of those positions that we asked the voters, can this person live outside of St. Charles County? And the voters said no. So this
Well-
director would have to live in the county.
And she does not, so she's not a candidate for the permanent job.
Right, so just saying any candidates who would be interested in the job, they do have to agree to live in the county. And for some people, that's a deal breaker, so they may even be a doctor, or have a PhD or whatever, but
That's
they
the
don't want to
problem.
live in St. Charles
Mr.
County.
Chairman, that's a problem, anybody looking for a house, even looking for a house right now.
This is true.
It's difficult.
So could I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
So since the last the acting appointment was for 6 months, I should have read this, but what are you requesting in terms of the duration of this appointment?
The charter just says that at 6 months, if we don't have a permanent, we have to ask you to continue it. It doesn't have an
Okay.
end date
So it's
duration.
basically the same as previous, okay.
I would appreciate to put a sunset clause on it or something. I gotta say, I mean, I had a conversation with Ms. Evers, and I explained to you, Joanna, it's not personal. I just don't agree with her perspectives and her lack of education with not being in the medical fields. I feel that a lot of her decisions were based strictly on what the CDC says, who, if at this point you're still believing what Fauci's saying, you lack intelligence. And the CRS, it's the stuff that he says over and over again is insane. It's absolutely insane. And so I did leave all the council members. I'm not going to get into all this. I highlighted a bunch of stuff, and I have all the questions and answers, and the vaccination stuff, one of my questions was how many people died from the vaccination 3 days after and according to her information, it was 8,500 people. That's probably closer to 50,000, but.
Is that in the whole country?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but 8,500 people, the swine,
not
when
here.
they did
No.
the swine flu vaccination.
That would be very noticeable if.
When they did the
yeah.
swine flu vaccination, 50 people were killed and they stopped the program. So, and so this is problematic to have any kind of a health director to be all in on the COVID stuff. And I'll be real quick here, but there's more to this COVID stuff. You guys are gonna think I'm nuts, but Seal, guy from Maryland called me. I told you he's a brilliant attorney. He was a SEAL. He sent me this thing called the Color Revolution, the intelligence branch of over a decade of test nudges. And then you read the points of the 4 stages of taking over a country without firing a shot through communism. And there are so many articles. The Archbishop Vigano, he's from Catholic families. He's an archbishop. And I gave you guys a paper too. He said, Archbishop, he's writing about the communist revolution. And at this point, I said this a year ago, I know you guys think I'm a right-wing tin hat wearing fool, but there's so much information out there what's really going on, that if you're buying into this COVID stuff still, it's a problem. And so we need to wake up and realize what's really going on here. And I would have an open debate on anybody with this stuff, absolutely. And I told you guys a year ago, I kept sending you stuff, I quit doing it because you don't want to read it, but I can't tell you what to think, I have to show you. So I'm going to slowly keep doing that, but, so I can't support this appointment, even if it's temporary, for those reasons. I just can't.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Folks have to realize that the public health director does a lot more than deal with COVID issues. That's been brought up to us many times. But I mean, I know in my own district, we've had a severe dog bite case. We've got, dog confinement issues. We've got the different administration, health departments, the health functions that the health department does. So that being said, in the 10 years I've been on the council, we've had 5 health directors, okay? So we've got one that she's doing the best she can right now. A lot of the rules that she came out with, she didn't have any say in. They were brought about from the state. So with that being said, we need somebody to do the job, especially as acting director for the time being. So I support Ms. Evers in that position just because I know we've got to have somebody there, and I know she's doing the best she can. Okay?
So with that, I entertain a motion.
So moved to vote on that issue.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries. That wraps up our consent agenda items, moves us up to resolutions. So we're at Resolution 21-12.
Resolution 21-12, sponsored by council as a whole. A resolution of the St. Charles County Council supporting an immediate extension of the 90-day temporary certificate for the Spire STL pipeline in order to ensure continuity of natural gas service to the residents of St. Charles County. Whereas on September 14, 2021, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission acted sua sponte to issue a 90-day temporary certificate for the Spire STL pipeline in order to ensure continuity of service for a limited period while the Commission considers appropriate next steps. And whereas the 90-day temporary certificate will expire on December 13, 2021, without further action by the Commission, and whereas that looming deadline is causing great concern amongst our citizens, employers, and emergency response personnel, and whereas in the current economy, such uncertainty is something that must be addressed immediately, and whereas the STL pipeline was proposed in 2016, approved by the Commission in 2018, and has been in operation since 2019, and whereas Spire has added many new service lines in St. Charles County, including North O'Fallon, St. Paul, and even into Lincoln and Pike counties, since the STL pipeline was put into operation. And whereas with the winter heating season now upon the citizens of St. Charles County, an extension of the 90-day temporary certificate is necessary to allow for the provision of adequate natural gas supply to St. Charles region, including its hospitals, schools, businesses, and homes until at least
the conclusion of the 2021-2022 winter heating season. And whereas an extension until at least May 1st, 2022 will provide our citizens with a reasonable certainty of continuous natural gas service as they face winter energy needs. Now therefore be resolved by the County Council of St. Charles County, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the St. Charles County Council expresses its support in the strongest possible terms to the immediate extension of the 90-day temporary certificate for the Spire STL pipeline to continue operating through the winter heating season until at least May 1st, 2022.
Any questions or comments about this? Mr. Cronin?
I worked on this resolution because I've been watching this issue for a while in the newspaper, and Mr. Ellman commented at the last meeting. And the long and short of it is this pipeline was proposed in 2016. The federal government gave approval for it in 2018. It got built in 2019. It's been running since 2019 continuously. So for some reason, they're now doubting the certificate that now enables it to operate. But Spire knows more about natural gas in this area than anybody else, and they say they need it, and there could be some shortages this year. So to me, it's pretty ludicrous to permit something to be built, build it, and then not reap the rewards of that pipeline. In my district, there's tons of new houses that are going in with natural gas. They've ran new natural gas pipelines into North O'Fallon and the St. Paul area that never had natural gas before. They're putting new lines up 79 for people in Lincoln County and up in even Ellsbury. Additionally, there was a thing in the paper about the coal-fired plants may be forced by environmental regulations to switch over to natural gas. Well, if that happens, you're going to need that natural gas to fire up the Sioux, Labadee, and General Motors power plants. So, for the federal government to say no, we're going to shut that pipeline off in December, it's complete insanity. I mean, I know I have a daughter and a sister live in Texas. We know what happened when in the middle of wintertime in cold weather, that their utilities went down. I don't want to see that happen in St. Charles County, and that's why I worked with Rory to get this resolution, and I'm glad that the rest of the council is on there as council as a whole. So let's hope they listen to it and get the temporary permit, so we got plenty of natural gas and everybody stays warm this winter.
Any other questions or comments about this resolution? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Resolution 2112, sponsored by council as a whole. A resolution of the St. Charles County Council supporting an immediate extension of the 90-day temporary certificate for the Spire STL pipeline in order to ensure continuity of natural gas service to the residents of St. Charles County. Councilman Cronin?
Yes.
Councilman Brazel?
Yes.
Councilman Hammond?
Yes.
Councilman Elam?
Yes.
Councilman Hollander? Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman White?
Yes.
Resolution 2112 passes. That brings us to bills for final passage, starting with Bill 5009.
Bill number 5009, an ordinance amending ordinance number 07.098, granting conditional use permit CUP number 682 for outdoor storage of automobile, boat, and recreational vehicles to Weldon Spring Business Park LLC.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bill number 5009, an ordinance amending ordinance number 07-098, granting conditional use permit CUP number 682 for outdoor storage of automobile, boat, and recreational vehicles to Weldon Spring Business Park LLC. Councilman Brazel?
Yes.
Councilman Hammond?
Yes.
Councilman Elam?
Yes.
Councilman Hollander? Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman White?
Yes.
Councilman Cronin?
Yes.
Bill number 5009 passes on to Bill 5010.
Bill number 5010, an ordinance affirming the Board of Zoning Adjustments decision on application VAR 21-02.
Any questions or comments on this
Mr.
bill?
Chairman,
I do.
I'd like to ask Mr. Hazelbaker to come forward and answer a few questions.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hazelbaker, it's my understanding that you owned this property previous to selling it to the people that own it now?
That's correct. I was issued a collector's deed from St. Charles County Collector, I believe in 2001.
Okay. When you sold this property, did you sell it in good faith, thinking that they could use this home or build a new home on it?
Most definitely.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Hazelbaker.
Yes, sir.
When you sold this property, did you sell it with the intent that it was 1 acre?
Did I what?
Did you sell it under the pretense that it was 1 acre?
I really don't remember. It was just the legal description was self-explanatory.
Okay. I got a question for Mike.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman,
Thanks, Mr. Hazelbeck. Oh, do you have a question for him?
if Mr. Brazel wants to talk to Mike, I'd like to ask him a question afterwards.
Thanks, Mr. Hazelbaker. Mike?
Mike, in 2011, when the first permit was applied for, what was the size of the lot that they submitted to the county?
Well, they've submitted first a deed that said it was at or about a half an acre
The first time?
in 2011.
Okay.
But then they also submitted a survey that said showed it to be 1 acre. And so permit was issued, staff took the word of the survey over the deed, believing that the surveyor being out there had found markers or landmarks, something that showed it to be bigger than it was per the deed.
And then that permit was withdrawn for whatever reason back then?
Correct.
For your time? And then the second time, in 2020, there was another application for a permit. At what point was that lot shown? What size was that lot?
So they submitted a plot plan that showed the size to be .59 acres.
And to what point did that go to?
That included the right-of-way.
All the way to the
along
middle
roads.
of the road?
Yes, it went to the middle of the road. And so the actual size, according to public record, is .50.
So Mike, this council tonight is strictly deciding the Board of Adjustments decision, correct?
That is correct.
And that's it?
The only
Nothing to
thing
it?
before you is the appeal of the Board of Zoning Adjustments' decision to deny their request.
And so during the Board of Adjustments, the one topic keeps coming up is the septic tank, the presenters. Has that been a topic of discussion during the Board of Adjustments for a hardship?
That they were claiming the ability to put in a septic system that could allow the lot size to be lowered, to allow the house to be put in there with that septic. Yes.
So give the points, the bullet points on what the actual issue before the council is on the Board of Adjustment decision.
So they are appealing, I can't remember the specific section of the code, but it deals with the lot size, the size of the lot in order for a house to be built in the agricultural zoning district. It is 5 acre minimum. It allows for 3 acre with septic, if the septic can be built on 3 acre if the lot is existing. It can also go down to as much as 1 acre in size, again, if the lot is existing prior to 1996. In this case, the lot is pre-existing, but it's under 1 acre. So it does not meet the minimum size of 1 acre lot to allow for even a septic or anything to be built there. That's the problem.
And what about the setbacks?
Well, setbacks, I mean, the house could be built within the setbacks. You have a 50-foot front yard setback, you have a 40-foot side yard and a 50-foot rear. So that limits the size on a lot that small of where the potential house could go. Then on top of that, you have the septic requirements of, there's a whole host of septic requirements. You have 10 feet from all property lines. You have 25 foot from the house itself. You have 25 foot from the roadside ditch. You have 50 foot from any cistern, and you have 100 feet from any well.
So it hits few of those?
It's very difficult to be able to build what they want to do inside of all those setbacks. Yes.
And the setback right now is 9 feet? Is it 9 feet from the property, adjoining property is 9 feet?
Well, I know it's, the septic that they propose is 10 feet from the roadside ditch. So it's not meeting that specifically right off the bat. It's also located within where the cistern is, the field, and that needs to be 50 feet from the cistern. So there's a number of issues on that, but again, regardless of all the setback requirements or the problems of building or not building, the only issue before you is, did the Board of Zoning Adjustment not make the decision correctly in your eyes that there was a true hardship there, that they should have granted that this to be built on less than an acre lot in the agricultural zoning district?
And so it goes on to say that if we approve this, then in my view, we're opening up, we're affirming something that the Board of Adjustments denied, and the plot plan was never submitted properly, and whoever, the purchaser of the ground was sold something that was not what it originated. From a 1 acre lot, you're gonna go off the plot plan. If it shows 1 acre and it's not 1 acre, it's a half acre, someone bought something, they thought they were getting something different. I don't believe that the county made a mistake because they were given a plot plan. In my view, everything I've ever built, you give a plot plan, a survey with a house drawn on it. And that's what they accept, that's what the plan zoning take, or that's what the building department takes. And then they're trying to change all the rules that we worked so hard to keep, the 3 acre and 5 acre minimum. I'm not for changing it because they made a mistake. And also, Mr. Struckoff, who's had been a farmer there for how many generations, one of the council members came down and looked at this property, and his comment was, well, the farmer's got that old fence and all that stuff. He needs to clean all that farm equipment up off his property that's close to that new house. And I thought, that's exactly what Mr. Struckoff said. You got a farmer that's been farming that area in his family for hundreds of years, a Struckoff family, and somebody built it wasn't the person buying the house, but it was one of the council members who made that comment, and I said, that's exactly what that farmer said. Because you're mixing residential, a small little lot, next to hundreds of acres farm, and that's a bad mix, because it's not a big lot. So that's exactly the precedence we don't want to start that. And like Mike said, we're here for specific reasons that was brought before the Board of Adjustments, and that's what we're voting on. None of that other stuff is too relevant, in my view.
Any other questions or comments?
Just a point of order. So if we vote yes, we're upholding the decision of the Board of Planning and a zoning adjustment. If we vote no, since we are not accepting the decision of the Board of Adjustment, we would need how many votes? Would we
Supermajority.
need more than just a simple majority?
Yeah, so if you are going to approve, so if you're going to affirm the decision, it just requires a simple majority of 4, but if you're going to reverse, or if you're going to amend or alter in any way, that would require 5 affirmative votes.
Okay.
Any other, Mr. Cronin?
Negative votes.
Sir?
Can I ask Mike a question? Piqued my interest. You heard the speaker earlier talk about the plats, areas that are platted.
Yes.
So do we have other areas in the county where where it's platted, but it's agricultural zoning?
Yes. We have quite a number of lots that are
Yeah.
1 acre or smaller throughout the county in agricultural zoning district.
So all of those would not be able to build anything on those lots?
If they do not have a pre-existing septic system in place, or a house already in
Okay.
place,
So
then
like Carmel Woods down on is that zoned agricultural?
that is zoned, yes.
It's zoned
Yes.
agricultural, but the lots aren't 1 acre. It sounds
Correct.
like. I'm thinking. so
The
nobody-
subdivisions were platted
So
many
nobody would
years
be able to
ago.
build anything there. What about like Defiance? Is that all zoned commercial now? Residential?
No, there's some commercial and some agricultural. It's a mix.
So would those lots need to be 1 acre before you could do anything with them?
The problem is if you have the septic, or if you're connected to any.
Okay, no,
water.
he said in the other jurisdictions, they make exceptions for
Sure.
platted areas, and I just never thought of that.
Yeah.
Because I figured most platted areas are zoned residential or commercial.
Right.
But I'm thinking of Defiance, I'm thinking of Campville. Isn't Campville platted down
Yes.
there? I mean, there's a lot of places that were platted but never incorporated. There's not as many as there used to be. But I think there's some areas out in Wentzville. What was that little town that used to be there just before you get to the? Yeah, Gilmore.
Yeah.
I think Gilmore was platted. I don't know, if Gilmore is zoned agricultural, then you need several lots to build a house on it.
Yeah, it's, again, if there's existing
Okay.
infrastructure in place, they would still be able
Okay.
to do it.
But I think what you're telling me is it's not going to be if you can't do that, it's not going to be a big problem anywhere else.
Right.
Okay.
Steve, I think some of your points are very good, because in Defiance, they do have some acre lots down there. But I also think, Mike, you made valid points, but I also think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more than the lot size, it's a conglomerate, because they gotta have a well. Defiance has water, and they have to have a well. And so the setbacks from the septic tank to the well is a problem. And then you got the setbacks from the side yard is 9 feet instead of 20 or what it might be. So I think it's a conglomerate of issues, the way I see it. I mean, in Defiance, so also, another point, is all the lots next to each other are acre, half acre, whatever they are. They're all consistent. This is a lot.
No, I understand
Yeah.
the difference. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure it didn't impact. And I
No, that's
think
a good
that most
point.
of Defiance is
Yeah.
zoned, so it wouldn't be a problem.
That's a good point, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to create a problem somewhere else.
Yes,
Go to Joe and then come
I
back.
agree.
Mr. Cronin?
I appreciate them sending out the plot map, because you can see it a lot better on this.
Yes.
And I'm familiar with this type of septic system, because I have one very similar to this. And I have a problem with this because the storage and aeration tanks are probably 60 to 70 foot from the wellhead, where he mentioned that it should be 100 foot away. And those tanks, let me finish, please. Those tanks do overflow. If you have a pump a stuck float switch, or a motor goes out, or you have power goes out for a while, you're gonna have sewage coming out of the top of them tank lids, okay? And you've got a well 60 foot away, and that's not a good situation. There's no room for air at all. I mean, you know, it's pretty common. Person buys a 20-year-old house in this county, goes to sell it, a septic system inspection shows that the field has failed. Well, most instances, there's room on the property to put a field somewhere else. There is none in this one. It's locked down, okay? So I don't support it because strictly from the point of the half acre, number one, and number two is I don't think that this is a layout that's gonna work long-term with that type of septic system.
Mr. Hammond?
Well, I'm going to disagree with him, but because we have put these type systems in on smaller lots, some half acres where there was a pre-existing house as a way to repair the system. But that was when there was an existing structure already there, and the peat moss systems do work real well in a small confined area. So that's all I got to say about it.
Any other questions or comments? So I would just go back to the fact that I appreciate all of the other things that we talked about, but to come back to Mr. Brazel's point, all of the stuff in your world-class award-winning septic system, which I'm sure is amazing world-class, that's not what we're deciding, correct? So it all really comes back to the fact of, so if we did overrule and approve this, what would have to happen after we did that? Because we would have to go back and pass another separate ordinance just for this particular lot, correct?
Correct. The ordinance right now is written in the affirmative, affirming the decision, so we would have to have a different ordinance to deny that.
But it would just deal with that issue. It wouldn't deal with these other issues about the septic tank or the setback, or
No,
those would still have to be worked out between the applicant and the county.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
All you're doing is allowing,
Them
you're
to
under
go
doing the under
forward.
1 acre. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bill number 5010, an ordinance affirming the Board of Zoning's adjustments decision on application VAR 21-02. Councilman Hammond,
Yes.
Councilman Elam,
Yes.
Councilman Hollander, Councilwoman Schneider,
No.
Councilman White,
I vote not to affirm, no.
Councilman Cronin,
Yes.
Councilman Brazel.
Yes.
Bill number 5010 fails, or is affirmed, sorry. So that brings us to 5011.
Bill number 5011, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute intergovernmental agreements with municipalities to provide kenneling services, or kenneling services and enforcement.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bill number 5011, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute intergovernmental agreements with municipalities to provide kenneling services, or kenneling services and enforcement. Councilman Elam,
Yes.
Councilman Hollander, Councilwoman Schneider,
Yes.
Councilman White,
Yes.
Councilman Cronin,
Yes.
Councilman Brazel,
Yes.
Councilman Hammond.
Yes.
Bill number 5011 passes on to bill number 5012.
Bill number 5012, an ordinance amending section 285.010, ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, regarding the St. Charles County Sheriff's Department civil process fee schedule.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bill number 5012, an ordinance amending section 285.010, ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, regarding the St. Charles County Sheriff's Department civil process fee schedule. Councilman Hollander, Councilwoman Schneider,
Yes.
Councilman White,
Yes.
Councilman Cronin,
Yes.
Councilman Brazel, Councilman Hammond,
Yes.
Councilman Elam,
Yes. Bill number 5012 passes on to bill number 5013.
Bill number 5013, an ordinance to rename the St. Charles County Juvenile Justice Center the Raymond J. Grush Juvenile Justice Center.
Councilwoman Schneider?
A resounding yes.
Sorry, I was asking if you had any
Oh.
comments.
Okay.
I jumped the gun on
Well,
that.
that was her comment.
She was excited.
That was
I
my
knew you were-
comment.
There you go. That
That's
was my comment.
And my vote.
All right, so with that, please call the roll.
Bill number 5013, an ordinance to rename the St. Charles County Juvenile Justice Center the Raymond J. Grush Juvenile Justice Center. Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman White?
Yes.
Councilman Cronin?
Yes.
Councilman Brazel?
Yes.
Councilman Hammond?
Yes.
Councilman Elam?
Yes.
Councilman Hollander?
Bill number 5013 passes. Congratulations. Thank you for getting that done. Bill number 5014.
Bill number 5014, an ordinance extending the duration within which a conditional use permit must be in place and in active use before it is considered null and void for all permits set to expire during the current 90-day extension for a total extension period of 270 days from August 31st, 2021.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bill number 5014, an ordinance extending the duration within which a conditional use permit must be in place and in active use before it is considered null and void for all permits set to expire during the current 90-day extension for a total extension period of 270 days from August 31st, 2021. Councilman White?
Yes.
Councilman Cronin?
Yes.
Councilman Brazel?
Yes.
Councilman Hammond?
Yes.
Councilman Elam?
Yes.
Councilman Hollander? Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Bill number 5014 passes. Any action to be taken on tabled bills? Seeing none, that brings us to announcements and miscellaneous. I would start with reminding everyone, we will be back here again next week because we are at the 1st and 3rd, so mark your calendars. In December, we move our meetings up so we can get the budget passed and gives the county executive 10 days in which to act upon the budget, which he has to do before the end of this term. So with that, any other miscellaneous? Mr. Cronin?
I'd like to let people know that the Wentzville Holt Indian football team is undefeated season going right now. They just won the semifinals, and they're going to play for the state championship of 5A. I'm pretty certain it's on Friday. So anyway, root on the Holt High School team, and be the first time they've ever played state championship game at Wentzville, so it's kind of a big thing. If you go around Wentzville, you'll see "Go Colt Go." You'll see a lot of signs out there already.
I hear it's the best team they've had in 40 years.
Yeah.
So
Something
something to
to
be
watch.
excited about.
Sounds like Mizzou, but they're not getting to the basket.
Did you say Mizzou? Was there news about Mizzou?
They're not getting.
Oh, we're not going to talk about that. I see how this goes. All right,
The
Mr.
Holt Wentzville team might be the best team that plays this year at Farrell Field.
Just so you all know, the Defiance Christmas Parade is this weekend. It's a great time. The parade starts at 12. It is the biggest small-town parade you'll ever see. It's a very small town, but it's a very big parade. A lot of vendors, wine, beer, bands. It's a good little time, so everyone come on down, bring your kids. It's very family-friendly, and there'll be Santa Claus, and it's a good time.
Just one other thing.
Yes, ma'am.
I think the Parks Department has a number of really cool things for the holiday season. I think that some information is available on the county website. I know we've got the Daniel Boone, again, we've got the train exhibit at the Heritage Museum and lots of other really fun things, so. Okay.
And one more thing, I forgot, sorry, thank you. The Daniel Boone thing is a great thing. That's 2
Yeah.
weekends. And then Augusta lights are, I believe it this weekend and next weekend. They light up the little town with candles, and I think it's really cool too. So got to try that if you haven't seen it. That's on Friday night? Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
That's it.
With that, I would, yes, sir.
I just want to wish Mr. Brazel a happy birthday.
Ah, happy birthday.
Yeah.
How many?
2 years from 60.
He's turning 39 again. He's getting good at it. Entertain a motion to dismiss.
So moved.
I have a
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are dismissed.